Hi everybody, Mr. Farmer here, and today we're going to be talking about monopolistic competition. So like anything else, before we get into it, we need to talk about just some of the characteristics. So the four we typically look at is how many firms in the industry, what kind of products are they, differentiated or standardized, are they price maker or taker, and what's the deal, can they enter or leave the industry? So the first one is number of firms. For monopolistic competition, there's a large number of firms, and each one of those firms makes up a small percentage of the overall industry. Toothpaste is a good example. We'll come back to that one later. Now, the product's differentiated or standardized. Well, this is where they differ from perfect competition. There is some differentiation, some variations of a product. I kind of think tennis shoes or, again, toothpaste is a good example here. There is some slight differentiation. It could be physical, actual differences. The Nikes are black, the Asics are gray, the Adidas are blue, different treads, different whatever else it is. It can be different degrees of customer service, okay, a different variation on how the industry or the company reacts. It could be locational, okay, where are they located? Is it nice and easy to get to the store? Is it hard to get to? Or are there some other special qualities? Sometimes there are real or even imagined ones. The imagined to a concept are things like the color of the shirt is blue. That's not an actual physical difference. It's just an imagined difference is the idea here. It's nothing that actually physically makes it any more different or anything else. It's just an aspect, more of a design type idea. That's what we consider imagined. Are they a price maker or price taker? A little bit of both here, actually. Let me explain. Because of the differentiation of products, they do have some slight control over them. Look at the toothpaste aisle. One might be $15 or $15.80 for the Sensodyne right there. But the one next to it, the blue box, maybe it's $15. Why? For some reason. Or the yellow box, maybe it's $16 or $10. There's some slight variation because there are differentiations. They can have a little bit more of a niche market compared to perfect competition. With that said, they still need to be within the competitive price range, and so they don't have anywhere near the ability to change prices like the Monopoly did. But they have some control over that, and that's going to affect what the demand curve looks like for us later on. And last one is, can they enter or leave the marketplace? Yes, they can. And on the scale of perfect competition to monopoly, it's closer to the perfect competition side. It is easier to get into it compared to the oligopoly and definitely the monopoly, but it's going to be some more difficult time getting in compared to the perfect competition. And the same is true for exiting. They definitely can leave as well. There could be some economies of scale going on. There are maybe some smaller firms going on here. Okay. They also need to advertise. Whereas in perfect competition, the apple was an apple was an apple. Now you need to say, how is your product different? Why should they buy you? Because of that differentiation. And so marketing definitely plays a role here. And we're going to assume nothing's going to prevent the firm from leaving. In the long run is where these are all happening. So we still have this non-price competition thing happening here, and actually it's going to be used more so than maybe even a monopoly. It's used to differentiate itself from its competitors. Because they still need to remain competitive pricing-wise, what makes them stand out? We'll let the customers know what's different about yours. So again, we call that non-price competition. To make prices less of a factor, you try and highlight different aspects. You can't lie about the other company. But you can do things like this. $4 is dumb. McDonald's. Okay, that's kind of the Starbucks brown. It's going against the competitor at the time. It's not saying anything other than $4 is dumb. That may not even be the price for the espresso, but it's definitely implied. So again, you can talk about the cross elasticity. Who are my main competitors? In this case, McDonald's is definitely seeming to be going after Starbucks for this example in their non-price competition. So a couple of assumptions. Each firm in the industry is producing a specifically differentiated product. Each firm is probably engaging in a particular amount of advertising, and we're going to assume that all the costs are going to be about the same. So here we have what the graph's going to look like, and it is exactly like the Monopoly graph. Couple differences. This firm is a representative graph of all the other many firms in the industry. But graphically, it does look the exact same. That's not deceptive to you. Couple of factors. Demand curve is highly elastic just by its characteristic. Again, we don't draw it to scale, so we're not worrying about that. And if your margin revenue is positive, negative, that still identifies elastic and inelastic. That's all still true. The idea is that in general, we're not going to draw it this way. The demand curve would be assumed to be more elastic because there are more firms in the industry. Elasticity depends on the number of firms and the differentiation. So if it is a very closely substituted goods, then you're going to have more elastic. If it's more differentiated products, it's more inelastic. And again, we have a large number of rivals, and there's a weaker product differentiation. Again, going to be more elastic in general. So maximizing quantity is still margin revenue equal to marginal cost. This is all the same. In fact, it is the exact same graphically wise as the monopoly. With that said, you can definitely still have the minimizing losses. That's going to be when at your margin revenue equal to marginal cost, your price, meaning your demand curve, is greater than your average variable cost but less than your average total cost. You can be making a profit. You can be producing at a break-even level. And that's what all of these look like. So on the top left, we have a profit. You can see that green shaded an area. Bottom left, we have the break-even, where at the margin revenue and margin cost, my price is equal to the average cost. Top right, we have minimizing loss, where at the margin revenue, marginal cost, that's output Q, my price is less than my average total cost, written AC here, but it's greater than my average variable cost. So we're minimizing the loss just like we did in perfect competition. And last one is shut down. Now for monopolistic competition, these could all be short run. So in the long run, again, firms can enter or leave the industry as they want to. Therefore, businesses in monopolistic competition will only achieve normal profits in the long run. So here we see this. At the margin of revenue equal margin cost, in the long run, my price will always equal the ATC, will always break even for the exact same reason as we did in perfect competition, because firms will enter and leave the market. So again, remember pure competition. As firms entered into this market, there's an increase in the industry supply curve. This then decreased the overall demand for each individual firms. Well, the same is true for monopolistic competition. We just don't draw this side by side. We don't see the industry demand curve. But what's going to happen is this demand curve, since there is a profit right here, this demand curve is going to shrink down. And as it shrinks down, and margin revenue is going to shrink down, this demand is going to decrease, margin revenue is going to decrease until it looks like this down below. So this graph is going to shift down until the demand is equal to the margin revenue and the marginal cost right here. So we still have this decrease, and that's how we would draw it. Again, we don't have the whole supply and demand industry graph over here to do this with, okay? But we're still identifying there would be an increase in the number of supply. We just don't see that, we just talk about it now. Same effect. In the long run, you still break even. Now again, the real world, it's not necessarily true. Because of the differentiation, there can be some niche markets where monopolist competitors do in fact make a profit. We're going to assume for our academic purposes, they'll always break even. So when does this happen? When industries have some monopoly tendencies, when there are differentiation. A hotel might have the best view, for instance, or there's definitely brand loyalty that can be happening here. Financial barriers to enter. Okay, so there are definitely some barriers, and the larger those barriers are, the more you can have niche markets going on. So are they efficient? Well, economic efficiency, again, is are you producing at the minimum ATC? That would be productive efficiency. Okay, and then also are you producing at the allocative efficiency? Is your demand equal to the marginal cost, or again, supply curve? No, they're not. Again, productive efficiency is going to be where your marginal cost equals your ATC. That's going to be right here. And so we're not producing at that level. The reason why is in the long run, I produce at my demand equal to the average total cost. But minimum ATC occurs where the marginal cost equals the average total cost. And this is where the demand curve plays a role. My demand is not equal to my marginal revenue. Therefore, since I produce a marginal revenue equal to marginal cost, I can't have all this combined because my demand is equal to my average cost. So therefore, these two items cannot be equal in the long run, so we're not productively efficient. For the same reason, since my demand is not equal to my marginal revenue, my demand cannot equal my marginal cost, so I'm not allocatively efficient either. So here it is all written out just in case you need that. We do also say that we have an under allocation of resources. We would have a deadweight loss here. So again, right here, the marginal cost equal to demand is where I want to be. I'll just assume the entire marginal cost is my supply curve, and so we would have a deadweight loss here. This is another reason why I know I'm not allocatively efficient, is the existence of the deadweight loss. One last little definition is a thing called excess capacity. Excess capacity is how far away is a firm from producing at their most efficient output, which means are you producing at the minimum ATC? Minimum ATC is again at this marginal cost equal to ATC, so it's going to be at this QO down here. I'm currently producing at QM. So my excess capacity is QO to QM. If I was efficient, meaning running at full potential capacity, I should be able to produce this much more. So this gap is then my excess capacity. So is it a good or a bad thing? Because there's differentiation in products, unlike perfect competition, we are now inefficient. But this means I do get choices. And so it's a little bit of a which is a better situation. It's a trade-off. Would you rather have larger differentiation? Then you get to pay for that choice. If you'd rather lower costs, just like Henry Ford Model T, they all came out black in order to reduce the costs. Well, then you're getting the car in black and that's it. It's a lower price, but it does come at a cost. So there's pros and cons to each scenario. So after this, hopefully you're able to, one, identify the characteristics and help you explain why that's important. Be able to identify the monopolist competitors' price and outputs, along with all the break-even, minimize, and loss, and shutdown scenarios. And also talk about allocative and productive efficiency. Until next time, bye.